This last week's been a hectic one in British politics with the run-up to the MEP elections, but at least online, there's only been one story, really. Yes, many political figures have had milkshakes thrown at them in the last month, and I have quite a few things to say on the subject. So first, this is not the first time that this has happened in politics, but it also is. Looking back, politicians being hit with food has certainly been a thing, though they tended to stick with eggs in the past. Milkshakes is kind of new, but it never became a trend, and quite frankly, I think I actually know the reason. So, Toby Robinson got milkshaked. Now, I want to actually attempt to establish a timeline of the full event of that happening, because it's what kicked it all off. It's what started all of this. So I think the best way to get like a picture of things is to figure out what happened from the easily discernible facts. So the guy who milkshaked him, his name's Daniel. We're gonna go with Daniel for now. It's just easier, and it means I don't have to keep having to dig out my thesaurus for words like dude, guy, man, protester. It just helps if I have just Daniel. So Daniel actually was featured in an article, and he explained his perspective on things. That perspective changed from the original article about it, but we'll get to that at the end. Let's just go with a timeline. Let's start. So apparently he's just spending the day in town, heading to a meeting, and just happens to bump into Unite Against Fascism. Okay, alright, already I'm gonna have to pause and make a small addendum. Tommy isn't a fucking fascist. You can claim he's a racist. It's an opinion for debate. But fascism is a very specific form of government, and the fact that it's just becoming another buzzword is actually starting to piss me the hell off. Call someone a racist. You may be wrong, you may be right. It's something you can debate. But if so, you have to have some very, very fucking clear evidence of policies to accuse someone of being a fascist. Jesus. Anyway, back to the topic at hand, regardless. He was apparently the only Asian person there. And these Unite Against Fascism guys, they were all so excitable and hugging him and saying he's so brave to be there. Yeah, I suppose it must be quite a relief to know you fulfilled your diversity quotas. So he specifically waits around for Tommy Robinson, a man who's very well known for getting into talks with people in public, on camera. I'll come back to that. So Tommy arrives and the two start to talk. Tommy starts with a simple question. Do you think I'm a racist? It's a fair question, considering everything around him. Daniel apparently responds with, yeah. Again, with all the shit surrounding Tommy, that's fair, in my opinion. Calm down, Tommy fans. Someone who might not be fully informed might well be led to believe that. It happens. People can be misinformed. It doesn't make them a liar. It just makes them wrong. And it's not their fault for being wrong. Now, it's their fault if they are presented with accurate facts and continue to deny them, but there's nothing wrong with starting on a bad foot. It happens by accident. Now, Tommy continues with, do you know that 80% of grooming gangs are Muslim? Now, it's clear that it's going to lead into Tommy saying his issue isn't with race but with religion. It's a fine chain of logic. But Daniel responds with his very large noggin, oh, that's a false statistic. What about white paedophiles? They're not called Christian grooming gangs. Also, first, equating white with Christian, I thought we shouldn't be equating the Asians with Muslim. That's interesting double standard right there. So apparently, and I quote from the article here, Tommy goes off on one, and Daniel claims that he was shoved and repeatedly abused. He claims that he did join in with protesters calling Tommy scum, interesting, but claims that Tommy's supporters were very aggressive, and that they had shouted racial slurs at him and called him a terrorist. I mean, if you're gonna stand about and shout and call someone scum, while I don't condone racial slurs, it sounds like it's comparable. Apparently, Daniel then had to leave as he had a meeting. Now, it's at this point I want to say I cannot for the life of me find any video evidence of this initial conversation. Tommy's video from this protest is heavily edited with cutaways to him talking and explaining the situation. So I'll freely admit it. He may have edited it out. If this conversation did indeed happening and it was unflattering toward Tommy, it's entirely possible he might have edited out. I don't believe he did, as we'll get to, but what there is evidence of is Mr. Daniel here autistically bouncing around during the event, at many times appearing to try and push past people and shoving his finger in Tommy's face. This is the man who claimed he was just walking through town on his way to a meeting. He really doesn't seem like a guy who just happened to stumble upon the event. So, he went to his meeting and apparently was walking home, but found that Tommy's demonstration was still going. He claims in this article that they came running after me. So, a little thing about me. When I was in college, a lecturer told me, hey, you should do an English degree. Now, I never wanted to do an English degree. I never found it would be useful to me. I didn't want to waste more time in education than I already had, so I declined. But due to this, I like to think I have a very good grasp of the English language when I want to. Sadly, I'm from the Northeast as well, so you can take as many grains of salt as you may require. But running after me, not he ran at me, he ran to me, he ran after me. As in, they ran at him, he started running away, and they chased him. That is the language being used there, and no, that is a flat out lie. You see it completely in Tommy's video. Daniel is standing around, and Tommy and his group walk up to him. He doesn't even jog up to him, it's a leisurely fucking stroll. You only see the last second of him walking up to him, but I'm pretty sure this doesn't constitute running after him. So, Tommy early in the video had a woman walk up to him, and she told him that Daniel had pushed past her to get to Tommy. And yeah, you do see at one point in the video, right here, that he clearly pushes into the back of her while aiming to point at Tommy. It's a wonderful screen grab, wonderful. Now, I will completely concede it's unintentional. It's not like he hurt her anyway, at least it doesn't appear. But he did push into her, it's true. Now, throughout a good chunk of Tommy's video, you see him conversing with the police officers, telling them about the woman, and he's trying to get a look into it. Now, personally, I don't think this is the best idea from Tommy. The woman can talk to herself. It's not like she was attacked. In the most charitable reading of the situation, he pushed past her. It's not really assault. So I've got to give Daniel the point here, although that does leave him around on a -7, but all fairness to him. So Tommy confronts the guy. He's being pretty confrontational, but just about the same amount as Daniel had been earlier. He accuses him of pushing past the woman, of bouncing around, and being aggressive. Yeah, this is true. 100%. Now, Tommy, in my opinion, does something a little stupid here. He says, and I quote, "You were being aggressive, like you were going to do something. You didn't do shit." Now, in my opinion, that second sentence changes everything. If Tommy had stopped at, "like you were going to do something," it's obvious. He's telling the man that looked like he was going to start a fight. It's accusatory, but it's open and shut. But following it up with, "you didn't do shit," Tommy, that's a taunt. That's basically saying, why didn't you? You should do it now. Do something. If you're going to act like you're going to do something, do something. Why didn't you do something? It might maybe me reading into it, but I am looking at this from a completely neutral perspective, and it's an odd thing for him to have said, unless he wanted Daniel to go for him. And yeah, I could. That would look very, very good in a video, I can imagine. But yeah, bad move on that one, Tommy, I think. Tommy then tells him about the woman who was pushed, and I'll admit he's a little in Daniel's personal bubble, but hey, at any point he could have just politely said, "Hey mate, could you step back a bit?" But it's not like Daniel gives much of a fuck about the personal bubble either. So Tommy continues, and there we go. Boom. There we go. The milkshake. The one that started it all. The moment that, in Daniel's own words, I was shaken up and shocked. The milkshake slipped out of my hand. Now, in the original Guardian article, he claims he kept moving to be away from Tommy. And while Tommy's video doesn't show this, it's possible it happened before the clip, but Tommy's demeanor really doesn't seem like it. He seems like this is his first proper conversation with the guy. Also, does this look like a man who's been backed up into a corner? No. This isn't someone scared and defending himself. That is a smug fucking grin. That is someone who's happy they are where they are. That is we are being oppressed levels of smug grinning. And You all know the rest. Tommy retaliates by trying to beat the shit out of him. And he has my full fucking support in that. If Americans don't know, we have a serious issue. Well, we did have a serious issue in Britain of people throwing acid on others. It was mostly focused to London, but it happened. This was a thing that happened in recent memory. So if someone suddenly chucked a mysterious liquid on me after we'd been having like confrontations, I'd probably beat the shit out of them too. So let's do a roundup. I'm going to divide this up into three segments. One, me being as charitable towards Tommy as possible, while remaining adhered to the facts. One that is the opposite, as charitable towards Daniel as I can be, while adhering to the facts. And then my genuine opinion. Tommy was having an average day of campaigning. There was one bloke there who was being a prat, but he clearly didn't care. But when one of his supporters was hurt in the process, he takes action. When police seem like they're not going to do anything, he confronts the culprit and is rewarded for his troubles with an assault on his person. He was on his way to work, but got riled up into a frenzy by anti-Tommy protesters. Due to their encouragement, he soon finds himself jumping and shouting at the racist that has just entered into his town without any permissions whatsoever. He either pushes this woman by accident, or she lied because she didn't like him, and soon he's confronted by Tommy. He is backed into a corner, he's afraid, so he throws his milkshake into his face. Deliberate, but in self-defense. My opinion, however, is that I do not believe for a fucking flat second he just happened to stumble onto this march. This is not the face of a man who is just wondering what's going on. This is not the face of a man who just happened to be in this situation. This is the face of an activist. Now, whether or not that initial confrontation with Tommy, where they talk about grooming gangs, happened, he behaved like an absolute twat. And while I believe he didn't mean to push this woman, that's completely fair, and he doesn't even seem to notice it happening at the time. He didn't mean to. So Tommy labeling it as assault, it feels like the political equivalent of ambulance chasing. But this man had no fucking leg to stand on to say, I felt scared for my life. I felt backed into a corner. He has blatantly lied multiple times in both of the articles that he was featured in. And quite frankly, while people should be giving him death threats, he should be facing ridicule from the public for his actions. But now I need to talk about the actual articles themselves. I've mentioned them here and there during this roundup, but it's time to actually look at them and look at the optics of them. But first we'll need a bit of background. So, let's do the time warp again! Back to the time that Jeremy Corbyn was egged. Now, what did the headlines for that one look like? And for consistency's sake, let's look at The Guardian on all occasions. When Jeremy Corbyn was egged, the headline leads with, Man arrested after allegedly hitting Jeremy Corbyn with an egg. Now, this headline is, yeah, it's solid. It establishes facts. A man was arrested, he hit Corbyn with an egg, and it even has the decency to add in the allegedly, despite the camera evidence. This article is just a few paragraphs explaining how it went down, and it's accompanied with a simple image of Corbyn. This was followed up the next day with an article that once again matter-of-factly states, man charged over egg attack on Jeremy Corbyn. It names him, gives a quote from him, and it has two pictures of him just going about his day. Now, what does the article for Tommy look like? Well, there was no article after the initial milkshaking. There was an article, however, after the second milkshake, because the day after Daniel milkshaked him, Tommy was milkshaked again. I can find almost no discussion about this secondary happening, actually. Every single time someone's talking about it, they are talking about the bloke here. But let's have a look at this one. Now, this article, as you can see from, well, the rest of my video explaining where there was complete bullshit, is just a character piece. It's effectively an opinion piece on his side of things. And then you look at the articles from when Corbyn was egged. These articles are filled with quotes from other politicians saying it's absolutely unacceptable and it should never be allowed. And they always had mention of it being assault. But not this one. Not when it's a naughty boy Tommy Robinson, also known as Stephen Yaxley Lennon. Not when it's pure, innocent, good boy Asian man. No siree. I'll leave speculation on media manipulation of the public to others, but I'm here to talk about the public. And, well, let's talk about the public. Right-wingers and centrists have been up in arms that this is not acceptable, that food should not be thrown at political figures. Now, all credit to them, this has been matched by left-wing figures. In particular, Joe Cox's widower, just huge props to him, specifically spoke out saying it ain't acceptable. But there's been just as many people on the left saying, this is just what these people deserve. This is just what should be done. No one's being hurt, but it's showing them that they're not accepted by the public. Well, I'd like to show you a timeline of the targets of milkshaking. So first we have Tommy, and this is a man who, to the public, is a racist, who has attacked immigrants. I cannot speak to the validity of that, and I don't care about the validity of that. I'm talking about the public perception of him. So let's move on. Next, there was Sargon, a man who has made rape comments, in the biggest air quotes I can fucking give, toward a female MP, and has had discussions regarding the age of consent. Then we had Farage, someone who campaigned for Brexit, and may have played a little fast and loose with the facts. And then we come to yesterday. Just some old bloke who's wearing a Brexit Party rosette. Member of the party who want Brexit. That's it. This started with a single incident between two individuals, and the target range has rapidly expanded until this has just become a blanket tool against people I don't like. This is why we don't accept this. Ever. Because yes, a single incident might be mildly acceptable in context, and as we've seen in the past, people have done it across the entire political spectrum. But let it go unpunished, even once. Let it become this much of a staple on the internet, it can become a trend of assault, of bullying, of fear. Even if this never goes past milkshakes, it is still a fucking unacceptable event. It is fast turning from actions against racists into people with political views we don't like. Just like it always fucking does. And this is what I talked about in my previous video. The worst of humanity is not shadowy manipulators pulling the strings behind the scenes. It is humanity's base emotions and its tendency to let things go off the rails. It's not so bad if I do this. Well, if I did this, this isn't too far from it. Well, that wasn't so bad, then how about this? This is why we draw lines in the sand. This is why we say not ever. Because one excuse leads to another, until we end up in a world where we are happy to throw literal shit at each other instead of having calm, reasoned debate. Imagine if Tommy and Daniel had just spoken. If Tommy had been able to just explain that he doesn't give a fuck about race. He's just concerned about dangerous cultures that our police aren't dealing with because of public perceptions. If Daniel had been able to just apologize to that woman that he'd pushed. Just talk, people. Just fucking talk.